Thank you for joining us. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're calling from. Thank you so much for joining us. It's amazing that today is, we're starting off the Ashoka Changemaker Summit 2020 edition. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you are as excited as we are. There's so much to learn, there's so much to share, and there's so much to look up to as we start this year's summit. Please go ahead with the video.
Welcome. Great to have you here. This is a unique moment, a moment that unites all of us. We all face anxiety and loss. We all see broken systems. We all experience the impact of the climate crisis. This is a unique moment. This is a turning point if we choose to make it one. This is a moment to reflect, to learn, to share, and to co-create. And I invite you to contribute. I ask you to contribute. I ask you to partner to fix broken systems. I ask you to join the movement so everyone can step into their change-making power. I ask you to nominate the next generation of changemakers. And I ask you to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise. And I ask you to donate to support changemakers. This is our moment to fix the world. This is our moment to contribute. Today is the day, and you are the one.
Thank you so much for joining us in this session titled How Data Transparency and Community Approaches are Promoting Sustainable Agricultural Growth in Nigeria, Indonesia, and Italy. Welcome to the session. My name is Ifeyinwa Egwaoje. I am the fellowship lead for Ashoka Africa. And with me coordinating this session is...
Hi everyone, I'm Susie Agustin, the session coordinator for this session, and I am the Venture and Fellowship representative of Ashoka Philippines. Nice to have you all here.
Thank you so much, Susie. So I'll just give a brief rundown of today's session of the agenda, and then we can start. We will have, we've had the welcome video. There'll be introductions, and then we'll have a check-in using menti.com. Then we will introduce the speakers, and then the session will go with African Farmer first, and we'll have Reggie from Indonesia and Antonio from Italy, and then we'll have the question and answer session, closing remarks, and wrap-up. Right now, I'd love us to check in. Please feel free at any point in time to use the chat function to ask questions. If you need clarifications, please feel free to use the chat function. And right now we will check in using the Mentimeter. Please go to menti.com and type in the code 9406002 and tell us what your expectations are for this session. But meanwhile, in the chat function, please introduce yourself, tell us your name, the country you're calling from, and how you are arriving to this session. Then in menti.com, please tell us one expectation that you have for this session. Susan, can you let us know who the people in the chat? Okay, good.
Sure. Just checking the chat while also some are sharing their answers on Mentimeter.
Okay.
Can you see it? Yeah,
Yes.
you have some answers here.
Learning, collaboration, new solutions. Go ahead.
None right now. None are calling in from Swap Card, so I'm just checking. But we're getting more answers on Menti. I guess they're busy on the Mentimeter website.
Okay. Meet fellows, learn sustainable agriculture, collaboration, community-based solution to exchange ideas. All right, keep them coming. Thank you so much for those answers and those expectations that you have. I hope that at the end of this session that we will meet all these expectations. So this session is, we'll be discussing how data transparency and community approaches are promoting sustainable agricultural growth in Nigeria, Indonesia, and in Italy. I will invite the panelists now to introduce themselves. I'd ask African Farmer to go first, and then Reggie, and then we'll have Antonio. African Farmer, please.
Hello, it's great to be here. I'm African Farmer Mogaji from Nigeria, CEO Farm Credit and Ashoka Fellow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, African Farmer. Reggie,
thank you.
Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone in the world. I'm Reggie from Indonesia. I'm the CEO and founder of FARA and Ashoka Fellow as well. So really excited to be here with you guys.
Thank you, Reggie. Antonio, please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everybody, and thank you for being here with us. Great pleasure. I'm Antonio. I'm from the WhatsApp Initiative, which is a social innovation initiative, and saying hi from Italy.
Thank you so much to the fellows that we have that will be presenting today, talking a lot about data transparency and how it promotes agricultural growth in their countries. Data is power, and whoever controls data, of course, has power and means to create products and services that allows them benefit from business insights, as well as it also provides market advantages. Digital agriculture enables efficiency, improves income growth, productivity, and also puts farmers at an advantage. So I want to talk to African Farmer. African Farmer, please, can you let us know, considering the new normal, how is data influencing the sustainability of agriculture and food systems in Nigeria? How are local farmers interfacing with data?
Okay, thank you. Well, I would say rather an opportunity because in Nigeria, we don't have adequate and accurate data. We don't have it centrally. So I say it's an opportunity for new people to come into the sector and more like crystallize this data. So we don't have a central pool where from one computer, you can get it. We have it in pockets, and around here, data is sacred, so to speak. So people still keep it. But the farmers, the local farmers and co, have a centralized way of verbally, engaging data, but it's not stored. So you can't pull it out, but they have meetings and to share data and experience. So it needs to be stored so that it can be pulled up for planning. So yeah, a great gap here in Nigeria.
Thank you, African farmer. So in essence, you are saying that farmers in Nigeria do not interface with data?
Yes.
Is that correct?
A majority. They work with local data available to them.
Okay. What needs to happen for them to begin to interface with data? First of all, is the infrastructure available? If it is available, sorry, if it's available, please let us know what needs to happen, for them to begin to interface with data.
So let me say the infrastructure is not accessible, and it's available but not centralized. It's still available in the urban centers, but not in the rural communities that is responsible for over 70 or 80% of production. So one is there needs to be a paradigm shift. The infrastructure without a paradigm shift will not work. So data still needs to be king. We need to still pay attention to the fact that data, food security is based on availability of data. Also, we need the donor community, the donor community, government, and the private sector to synchronize activities. So when we have a centralized pool, then we'll go forward. That's what needs to happen, a tripartite arrangement where private sector, government, and civil society, because to get this structure together, you need to bring in quite a lot of civil society or the social enterprises to put up that system.
If I hear you correctly, it's systems change that needs to happen.
Systems change, bottom line. That's the Ashoka language.
All right, thank you so much for that. So Reggie, I want us to look at policy. What policy stimulates the adoption of technology, which includes data and transparency, that improves agricultural sustainability at the community level? And how does that influence the ecosystem?
Okay, thank you. If allow me to share slides in here to ensure the participants can follow what I just about to explain. Let me tell you what I've been experiencing, like what Mogaji explained in Africa. So the infrastructure is not there, but the way we collect data is by creating jobs, empowering local field agent, whoever who has a smart phone to become a data collector, then she or he can become demand aggregator, loan facilitator, and off-taker to make sure that we have what we call sustainable closed-loop ecosystem in every village that we are working. Because Indonesia has around 72,000 villages across the nation. Therefore, in regards of the spread of villages in Indonesia, number one, the bottom line, we need to understand who are the key stakeholders in these matters. I put it ABCGM, which is academician. We always work with them to create some research, policy papers, and so on. Business is people who are impacted by the policy. Communities are the one who execute the policy itself. Government, the policy makers, and media, who are the one who socialize the policy created by the government. There are three things that I experience, and this is something that we really driving the government as a policy maker. Number one is transforming from regulator to become FAC, facilitator, accelerator, and regulator. Because with all due respect, with my humble opinion, government will not be able to cope and follow the innovation and the speed of disruption happening on the ground. So if there's a regulation, there's always be left behind with what's happening. That's why by transforming government to become a facilitator, then accelerator, then the regulation can keep up with all the innovation and the systemic change that we are creating on the ground. That's number one. Number two is actually government or policymaker create a collaborative effort to create a win-win ecosystem. For example, I create a collaborative effort with central bank because central bank required and produce every single day on economic inflation data. So by working with us, they can access to our data, not only data in the market, but they can see the data from the producer and every supply chain on the pricing. So they can manage and they can making an intervention in regards of data inflation of economy within regional or national. The third one is actually, this is what excites us, is actually let us fail. Let us try and fail until we learn. And this kind of sandbox policy need to have within 1 or 2 years for everyone to try before they create a new regulation. For example, data privacy regulation. This is very sensitive issue. That's why we need to learn and we need to test it out. If it's failed, don't punish us. Embrace us and continuously improve it. Citizen participation on data acquisition. I give you an example. If government do the land certification by the government body, it's going to take 150 years for Indonesian to achieve that land certification across the nation. Imagine if the local communities can create participation by go around using the GPS and it produce land certification, it's much more faster and the ownership is there. So those things are what I have in mind, transforming collaborative and sandbox policy. So I'll give it back to you. Hopefully it's answered the questions.
Thank you so much, Reggie. My follow-up question would be, are farmers aware, of the regulations on data transparency?
So does farmer aware about data transparency? Yes, at this time being, Indonesian farmers are aware. Why? Because there's a lot of a so-called intervention or education on the political election process. Whenever they have an election process from district level, city level, governor until presidency level, they aware the importance of the data. Therefore, they value the data so much.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go to Italy, to Antonio. So Antonio, I'd like you to let us know what needs to happen for data to drive inclusivity and sustainability, particularly in the context of future demand for food and other agricultural products.
Okay, like in Italy, we have a very complex data gathering process and data sets. We have national data, they are the census, but we have also the so-called RICA data, which consists of all the economic data of the farming activities. We also have a specific statistical institution, which is called ISMEA, which collects market data for agricultural products. About sustainability, much is done at regional level because each regional government take care of the so-called farmer's diary. In this diary, farmers have to introduce all the data and put all the data about what they do in terms of chemical use, fertilizer use, and this is very useful. Although still we need much to do to get this system implemented, in the sense of taking this information and applying this information to make regulations. Because now we are in the process of defining a better way to get this data into the system and then to use them for regulatory purpose and to policy making. And this could be very useful for sustainability. About social inclusiveness, this is more difficult because this is a weak point of data gathering system in Italy, because this, actually we don't have many data about this. In fact, the purpose of our action within the WhatsApp initiative is to get this data bottom-up wise. So just to go from farmhouse to the other farmhouse and get this data, so we can have about data about even perception of policy making, social inclusiveness, and community information, which are also fundamental for the growth of the farming system and the agricultural sector.
Okay, thank you so much, Antonio. The next question that I want to ask, I'd love everybody to take 2 minutes to talk about it. So we'll come back to you again, African farmer. So you mentioned that farmers were not interfacing with data, but I would love you to tell us, critically looking at the ecosystem, what is missing and how do we bring it into, what is presently missing but is very critical to agricultural sustainability and data transparency.
Yeah.
And how do you think it can be done? Go ahead.
Basically, what is missing is that consciousness that data is actually the food security. Do you get? So if you don't believe in data, if you're not conscious of the fact that data is the pillar that you build a castle on, then there's nothing anybody can do about that. But what needs to be done for now is like this kind of programs, a collaboration now. As we're talking, I already see a collaboration between the 3 panelists, the farmers, dairy, and from Reggie, where we can put something, what has worked, and scale it down in Nigeria and say, so now we have benchmarks, what has happened in Indonesia, marry it with Italy, and just run some case studies, some pilots that you can present to government to say, hey, this is an hybrid model, let's do it. So the bottom-up approach really is what will work around here in Nigeria, but you need some funding to be able to effect that, or get some, let me use the word volunteers or charity organization to leverage on Reggie's mobile package, to get things done. So already, this is what needs to happen, and it's happening now.
Thank you, African farmer. We'll move to Reggie now. The most critical.
With the same question, I would like to put 3 things, what is missing. Number 1 is the discrepancy of data which given by the government. Because one department, say the production of corn, for example, like 20 million. The other department of government, that corn is around 60 million. So the gap is so huge. So which data that we can rely on to from the business perspective or community perspective or a policymaker perspective? Because by the time the data are missing or has a big discrepancy, the strategy and all the execution completely different. That's what's missing. The other thing is missing is actually the infrastructure in terms of 2 things. One is the internet infrastructure, which is the penetration of the internet is not really spread out to the level of low density population like on the farm field. That's why we need to modify the technology, which is having an offline and online. Second infrastructure is the transportation infrastructure, in which is what you call uh, making more efficient in terms of picking up and distributing the production of the goods that produced by smallholder farmers, for example. And the third thing is actually what missing is because of those two, is the transparency of the supply chain transaction, because we have around 7 to 9 layers of middlemen from the smallholders to the hand of the consumers. Therefore, in terms of the price, the quality, and everything become a challenge. But the way I see what's missing, it's become an opportunity for us to collaborate and to make the things changes. And this is why we are gathered together as Ashoka Fellow, then we can benchmark each other and change the world together.
Absolutely. Thank you. Antonio, please go ahead and respond to the question.
Okay, well, one other thing that is missing, in my opinion, is the connection of all the data. Because we have multiple databases, multiple institutions that collect data, and they are not connected. We have systems like artificial intelligence that could actually help us a lot to monitor all the system and to correlate different variables of the system and have a clear view of what would be like the effective leverage for policy making to adopt new actions and to stimulate one variable to get an effect. So like to have all this cause effect mechanism working, because right now we are in the process of having so much data, but they are not used as they could actually be used. So like one objective that I would like to explore in the next future is just to have the opportunity to stimulate the integration of all different data at the regional level, national level, and maybe international level, to better understand the whole system and have to start a decision support system, let's say, like a DSS, that it could be actually effective and have a clear view. Once, of course, we need data transparency as a ground for this, like a decision support system that has a clear view and could actually be in the hands of policymaker and a local governor to better address the policy making.
Thank you so much to the three of you for that information. I want to call on Susan. Let's see if we have questions for the speakers.
Yes, thank you. And a really great session so far, panelists. We have one question from Daniel Skirten of Switzerland for African farmer. So the question is, what are the practical physical barriers to data access for farmers to use or contribute to? So for example, wireless infrastructure and data-ready device affordability.
Well, most of the farmers don't have access to data, but gradually the app, WhatsApp, is generally being adopted and accepted by the farmers. So yes, most of the farmers now have mobile. They are online to watch movies and videos and entertainment, but the infrastructure that is available now. Apart from that is the data gathering. That's a very key challenge now, because each farmer operates individually. The extension system is heavily broken down. So except they come into their weekly community meetings, for fellowships and interaction, there's no way they can share that data. So a central pool where each farmer can put directly, maybe via SMS, to a central system is, let me use the word, is a major barrier now. So to create that platform is going to solve a lot of that problem. I don't know if I got your
Yes, thank you, African Farmer. So far there are no new questions yet. Ife, if you have follow-up questions for the speakers, while I nudge the audience to ask more questions.
Okay, African Farmer, in your experience in Nigeria, I'd love you to let us know how you have interfaced with data and how that has helped your program in Nigeria to grow.
Thank you. We interface with direct data from farmers, and against popular opinion that the rural farmers don't have data. They actually have data, but it's not documented data. So what we do is engage community, sit with them and tell them, this is our plan. And if you take to all the communities, they now give you information. Take, for instance, about 8 years ago, we wanted to plant corn in a particular location. And one very old man, almost 80-year-old, passed by and just said, the climate I see now mirrors a climate in 1986. Some 20 years, plus after. And he says, don't plant cassava, plant maize, because the rain is going to be heavy. And guess what? That was what happened. It saved us a lot of money, but that data is not documented anywhere. So when I go to places, we call it rural intelligence. You engage them, they have it. There was a particular year they told me we wanted to start with irrigation and finish with rain. And they told me the trees by the riverbanks, until the leaves become dark green, there will not be rain. Rain was falling kilometers around, but until the leaves, which was like 3 weeks, was dark green, so I lost money year one, lost money year two. Year three, I said it's wisdom to listen, and I listened and I made money, so we just need to engage and find a modern way to capture this data and share.
Great. Thanks, African Farmer. And we have a new question from Jessie de Maria Kinney from Geneva of Plan Adapt. Her question is, given the current situation, if farmers were to have open, equal, and free access, how usable is the current data? In other words, is the data shared or communicated in clear and understandable language and format? And this is open to all of the panelists to answer.
Thank you, Suzanne. So I'd like African Farmer Reggie and Antonio to give us, from your country experience, please respond to the question.
Okay, maybe I can start first. The way I answer this, I would like to second and agree with Antonio and African Farmers' opinion. One is about the data integration, because I do believe that every initiative, civil society or government or businesses, they've been collecting the data and they keep it siloed. They keep it by themselves.
Yes.
They don't want to share it with others because they think they can do for their own benefit. But second, if I share with others, what's in it for us, right? What's in it for me? And the third one, they haven't seen the implication or the impact once data integrated, but with a technology that we can incentivize the owner of the data and respecting the data owner in regards of the regulation, we can really open collaboration for sharing the data. And to Mogaji explanation, I experienced the same thing with what I call local wisdom. Imagine that series of years of data that we have and integrated, and sit down with the local person who has been living in that specific area and building a mathematical modeling toward his tacit knowledge based on the local wisdom and share that to the farmers. Imagine that what will happen. So to the question, by having those two way of thinking, data integration and sharing data and combining the local wisdom, it will help and it will leverage a lot of collaboration within the ecosystem in each communities. So we have a fair and what you call openness in terms of growth together for all the smallholder in one village, one city, or one country, even across the world. So I think that's the way I see it, and could happen if number one, like African farmer mentioned, the mindset, right? So that's what the first thing first that we need to do.
Thank you. Antonio, do you want to respond to the question?
Sure. Okay, how data are available? In most of the cases, we have a good reporting. So what a farmer can access is reports like summaries of the data, but they are just basic descriptives. So we don't have like a decision support system based on data. This is something that is missing. Because otherwise data are still available, but not as not usable for farmers, because they are like database. You can ask to all the data gathering institution to have this database that maybe they through university or through other institution you can get it, but they're not usable for directly useful for farmers, with the exception of some very exceptional databases which are on like a grain price. They have updates like every week, and they are like open access online, and they are farmers, they really get to use them, so they can understand if they need to sell the grains, in our case the wheat, or not, or to keep it, and so forth. So in this case, wheat producers are very active, and they are using data to better understand the best moment for the market.
Ify?
African farmer, please go ahead.
Please come again with a question.
Susan.
Yes, so given the current situation, if farmers were to have open, equal, and free access to data, how usable is that current data?
Yeah, so the data would be highly usable because right now, even the rural farmers, the uneducated farmers now, due to the pandemic and the recent protests and climate change, this year has been a bit rough for farmers in Nigeria because they couldn't produce. There was heavy rainfall, the price of dollar went up, and protests. So it's been rough for them. So they're willing to plan now. So these negative situations, if the data is available, they would make use of it, especially leveraging local radio. But they're very open now not to waste resources. Before, they ascribe anything they do to, we're very spiritual here. We attach everything they do to God, or nature, But right now, nobody wants to waste because there's been a lot of waste and climate change challenges. So the data now is relevant, and they are hungry for a lifeline of data for them to be able to plan and sustain their families. Don't forget, no farm produce, no economic sustainability for them. They are threatened. So data now is relevant to them unlike before.
Susan, do we have any other question?
No questions so far, but we have here from Christina Mishra a comment, a suggestion to all the Ashoka Fellows working in the space of data in agriculture, and start working together across the globe. He said, we at Ecotier have taken a lead, and we are in touch with Reggie already. I'm an Ashoka Fellow from India. So I guess it's not a question, but maybe all three of you in your organizations, I think African Farmer touched on this a little bit already. what do you guys see as collaborations coming from this specific session of rediscovering certainty and agricultural growth moving forward? So again, what collaborations do you see or want to start up, and maybe a call to action to the audience listening in?
Antonio, do you want to go ahead? What opportunities for collaboration do you see?
I'm a big fan of collaboration, international collaborations. I think like one good way to start is like to have like a list of a good practice across the globe that we could share within the Ashoka Fellow, and maybe have then a second time in which we can expand to beyond the Ashoka Fellows. So we can have a collection of best practice. Let's see where they match or where they can improve. So we can do some future matching to make people talk and different countries talk. So maybe we can do something to improve our system towards sustainability and social inclusiveness.
Thank you. African farmer?
Yeah, just like Antonio said, I believe we need to first share what is working in our countries, as regards this basic data collection and transparency. What is working? Because I believe from what is working, it can be adapted before adoption. So if we share, beyond this space, what is working, that would help us because what is working in Italy, may just be copy and paste in Nigeria, and same with Indonesia and other regions. As against, we're looking at what do we need to do? What do we need to do should be secondary. If we share what is working, we can individually adopt it or adapt it and share again. And so for what I call cross-pollination of ideas, then we now say, okay, this will work, or pick up, small bits of, let me try this. If it works, that feedback, that community, I think that community and regular conversation is what we need to start with. And it has nothing to do with government, it's strictly private sector.
Thank you. Reggie?
Okay, I agree that those points from both sides, Anthony and Mugaji. I would like to start with the belief, the heart, why we are here and why we become a change maker in Ashoka and why we become Ashoka. Because we have a common goals and common heart. I trust Ashoka, I trust you guys. I trust that you are here because we want to make a systemic change. Because that's a gold by itself. That's a diamond by itself to start with. So in order to do that, we never give up, right? Even though it's the challenge, like we want to create a mountain. It's not only moving a mountain. We want to create a mountain. So never give up is things. So by the time we have common ground, by the time we have common belief in terms of sharing, we don't afraid to share everything because we trust each other. Then a cross-pollination, I like the word that you are using, adoption, assimilation into the localities that have a fundamentals redlining belief that we want to do for better good of others. That's why we are here. So that kind of spirit that I would like to bring to all people in here in Ashoka Fellow, let's work together and for the common goal that we have.
Thank you. Let's work together. It keeps coming up as each speaker talks. There's the call to action, let's work together. There are so many opportunities that have come up in this field. So the call to action is let's work together. Collective action is what will get us to sustainable agricultural growth. Susan, do we have any more questions or any more comments?
Yes, so we have a comment from Jessie. It's on the note of collaboration. She said, or he said, they're bringing up the example of EU Copernicus. So open source data, like what Reggie was saying, sharing the data and finding how to localize these data and have better understanding it in a local context would be really great. And then Oliver from the US says he has kind of an odd question. He asked, have any of you looked at emergency management in farming and challenges of having access potentially to EMS services?
Can you come again with a question? I think it's two-faced question.
Sure. So the first part is, have any of you looked at emergency management in farming? And the second is challenges of having access to EMS services. So I think this emergency management services.
Okay, so, okay.
Go ahead, Reggie. I think you wanted to.
So at least I have once experience on the emergency. Indonesia as a country, we are archipelago countries, which is island and island. Across from, if you imagine Indonesia is from the west coast to the east coast in US, that's how long we are. But the difference is we are island based, and most of the islands, we are under the ring of fire. All the volcanoes in Indonesia are active. So in one of our project area is very highly sensitive and highly emergency. So what we do is we work with Indonesian, what you call, there's one department which does the prediction of not only weather, but the risk and emergency because it's around volcano in terms of the changes of the land and everything. So that information we capture and put into our system, and we are informing regularly to the farmers from season to season. But since the data is not granular enough and is not what you call ability to fit using the technology connection like API. So we put on the kind of like newsletter for them to inform what's going on around that area.
Thank you, Reggie. African farmer, you were going to respond.
Yeah, yes. I've not really had any, major emergency management service, but what we do, well, let me say, occasionally we have it with like pests. We have it with like pests that affects some of the herdsmen's cattle, and they drive back to the farmers. So mostly this herdsman farmer issue. So when there's no, when you have pest invasion, you will ideally have the herdsmen moving more into the where you have the farmlands. And so that's in itself, because many farmers die yearly, as in yearly, due to this issue. But so what we've done is to be able to reach out and bridge the gap. I believe partners, you don't fight with your partner, you collaborate with your partner. So now cassava peels, so where they peel cassava is far from those farms. So now the herdsmen with their cattle now go and eat cassava peels, which is a pit big there, and they leave the farms. So every day they keep peeling cassava. So we just moved their attention from eating grasses to moving to eating cassava peels. But they work together now. So after the farmer has harvested the crop, maybe fresh maize, the herdsmen go there to eat. That collaboration is working in one of our rural suburbs.
All right, thank you. Antonio.
Yes, like emergency and agriculture and data. One thing I want to say is about calamities, given the climate change, like weather it's changing a lot, and also like the rain intensity and the time in which it's raining and then the level of intensity. So it's catastrophic because our territory is not used, and our land preparation, for example, is not good for this kind of climate events we're having because of climate change. So each municipality has a service that gathers the data of the effects on agriculture of these calamities. Those data are then transmitted at regional level for like a public intervention, economic support to those areas that have been like disrupted by those calamities. So this is like emergency-wise how it goes here in this territory.
All right, thank you. I'd ask Susan if we have any more questions. No.
Just one small follow-up question from Oliver. Is there any education from AMREF? This is a question directly for African farmers.
Okay, is there any education? Yes. Right now we leverage radio, and I'm on like 4 national television stations now. So I give more time to disseminating information vis-a-vis climate change, access to market, so that when you know what's happening in another state, you can adopt or adapt and also access to market. So I'm moving more of my operations from 2021 more into capacity development, because we need that, and we need to bring that down into local languages. So I just wrote a book, and now they're translating into one of the major tribes that covers 6 states where I am. And so the 2 remaining languages, is transcribed. So that capacity development is actually what will unite us to be able to get this data for us to work together and ensure food security. When it comes to Nigeria, it's not Nigeria's food security, it's West Africa's food security, because the challenge we have, the data we don't have in Nigeria is affecting West Africa. And the data we're not keeping for West Africa, when they come to buy food from us, it creates a challenge for us. So we need to gather even more data across West Africa. And that's why the ICON project, really should come in, because it's a West Africa regional cooperative solution, so to speak.
Thank you so much, African Farmer. Any more questions? We are almost running out of time. Susan?
No more questions. That was the last.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been really enlightening. This has been time well spent. Thank you for your time. Before we go, I want to call on everybody. Susan, coach. So before we go, I'd love everybody to go to menti.com and tell us one word that you are taking away from this session. So as that is going on, I want to say one last word from 3 of you, and then we can round up the session. One last word. Antonio, please go first.
Just one. It's a collaboration.
Thank you. African Farmer?
It will be Ashoka integration.
Thank you. And Reggie?
Love.
Thank you so much. Please go to menti.com. Okay, enter the code Thank you so much. You can see love, collaboration. We thank you for your time, for joining us in this session. Thank you so much for joining us. And then thank you to our fellows who have come to share so much information about data transparency in their different countries. We thank you for your time. And the one word that I am taking and that I encourage everybody to take out of this is collaboration. There are opportunities out there. What we need to do is work together. We need collective impact to help us solve the problems that we have. Thank you so much. Susan, one last word from you, and then we can close.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Feel free to keep adding your one-word takeaway on the Menti. Other thing is you can connect with our speakers through SwapCard. I know a lot of you are excited to collaborate. There was really great ideas happening in the chat. So feel free to go to the speaker section of SwapCard or exhibitors. You will find our wonderful speakers there. Send them a message, start and get those collaborations going. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.